Salams and welcome. Thank you for joining me in part number 3 of this wonderful English rendition of the Quran, the English translation and commentary by Abdullah Yusuf Ali, and published by the Islamic Propagation Center International. And as what I mentioned, I got this book as a gift on the passing of my very good friend Ibrahim K. Karam. For the sal'li, his family gave it out for the sal'li sahab of the late Ibrahim M.A. Karam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward him abundantly. And reward his family as well. Right, so we are busy with the preface to the first edition, and as what I said, it's slow reading, but let's get through this before we get to the Quran itself, because it's important to get an insight into the Quran itself. Right. Sometimes I have considered it too stupendous for me, the double task of understanding the original and reproducing its nobility, its beauty, its poetry, its grandeur, and its sweet, practical, reasonable application to everyday experience. Then I have blamed... Let me just try and switch on another light because I'm finding it very, very difficult to read this. Okay, I think that's a bit better. Then I have blamed myself for lack of courage, the spiritual courage of men who dared all in the cause which was so dear to them. Two sets of apparently accidental circumstances at last decided me. A man's life is subject to inner storms far more devastating than those in the physical world around him. And this is referring to problems that we all face with mental anguish, whether domestic problems or community problems, other types of problems. In such a storm, in the bitter anguish of a personal sorrow, which nearly unseated my reason and made life seem meaningless, a new hope was born out of a systematic pursuit of my long-cherished project. Watered by tears, my manuscript began to grow in depth and earnestness, if not in bulk. I guarded it like a secret treasure. Wanderer that I am, I carried it about thousands of miles in all sorts of countries and among all sorts of people. At length, in the city of Lahore, this is in Pakistan, this was before the partition of India and Pakistan, and East Pakistan is Bangladesh. So at length in the city of Lahore, I happened to mention the matter to some young people who held me in respect and affection. They showed an enthusiasm and an eagerness which surprised me. They almost took the matter out of my hands. They asked for immediate publication. I had various bits ready, but not even one complete sipara. They made me promise to complete at least one sipara before I left Lahore. As if by magic, a publisher, then a khatib, a calligraphist to write the Arabic text, an engraver of blocks for such text, and a printer were found, all equally anxious to push forward the scheme. Blessed be youth for its energy and determination. Where others flinch, rest the youth shall dare. And he gives a quote. Oh, and now he's addressing you and me, right? Let's listen to what he's saying. Oh, gentle and discerning reader of the Quran. What I wish to present to you is an English interpretation side by side with the Arabic text. The English shall be not a mere substitution of one word for another, but it will be the best expression that I can give to the fullest meaning which I can understand from the Arabic text. The rhythm, the music, and exalted tone of the original should be reflected in the English interpretation. It may be but a faint reflection, but such beauty and power as my pen can command shall be brought to its service. I want to make English itself an Islamic language, if such a person as I can do it, and I must give you all the necessary help and aid which I can. In rhythmic prose or free verse, whichever you like to call it, I prepare the atmosphere for you in a running commentary. Introducing the subject generally, I come to the actual surahs. Where they are short, I give you 1 or 2 paragraphs of my rhythmic commentary to prepare you for the text. Where the surah is long, I introduce the subject matter in short, appropriate paragraphs of the commentary from time to time, each indicating the particular verse to which it refers. The paragraphs of the running commentary are numbered consecutively with some regard to the connection with the preceding and the following paragraphs. It is possible to read this running rhythmic commentary by itself to get a general bird's eye view of the contents of the Holy Book before you proceed to the study of the book itself. And this is the part where I like it. This is a part that I'm very, very curious about, And inshallah, that is a project that I would like to do during Ramadan. That means I don't want to just read the entire Quran, because that's going to take quite long. I want to do that, inshallah. But I just want to read the summaries, right? As part of the Quran summaries for Taraweeh. And during our understanding of the Quran during the Ramadan, he's got summaries at the beginning of every chapter, and he's a poet himself, so he's got some very beautiful rhythmic commentary. So I don't know, I'm just pondering whether I should do the entire reading of the Quran first, or maybe what I would like to do is maybe initially just read the summaries of this entire 114 chapters, all the summaries of the Quran, and then I will then do the intensive reading. Allah, let me just ponder over it, right? Let's continue with that. But I'm fascinated by this particular statement of his, right? So it is possible to read the running commentary by itself, right? To get a general bird's eye view of the contents of the Holy Book. And I would like to do that before you proceed to the study of the book itself, right? Let me try and do that, inshallah. The text in English is printed in larger type than the running commentary, right? So what he's saying here, for example, this is the text in English, whereas the notes are much smaller. Let me move my hand out of the way. So can you get an idea? This is the way he has laid it out. That is the English, that is the Arabic, and at the bottom are the notes. The notes are much smaller. Let me just try and get a rhythmic commentary just to get an idea. Okay. Right, let me just turn the page here, just to give an idea. Okay. Right, this is what he does. So he starts a summary. This is like the summary. This is what he's referring to. So this is, say, for example, Surah Al-Baqarah. So he starts off the chapter of the Quran just with the summary. This is a summary of Surah Al-Baqarah. And then before he starts with that, he's called a little bit poem here. He's got a little short poem here. This is called the rhythmic commentary. So he starts with the summary, then a rhythmic commentary, then he starts with, for example, you say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, or A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and you say, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Then you say, Alif, Lam, Mim, then we say here, Alif, Lam, Mim. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. This is the book, in it is guidance sure, without doubt, to those who fear God, right? So that is what he's referring to, that he's made it into a summary plus a rhythmic commentary, and then the English and Arabic side by side. So the text in English is printed in larger type from the running commentary in order to distinguish at a glance the substance from the shadow. It is also displayed differently in parallel columns with the Arabic text, as we saw just now. Each surah and verse of each surah is separately numbered, and the numbers are shown page by page, right? So each surah is separately numbered. We got the numbering in Arabic, and we got the numbering in the corresponding numbering in English, right? So the text in English is printed in larger type. The different qira'ats sometimes differ as to the punctuation stops and numbering of the verses. This is not a vital matter. It is important that at least in Islamic countries, one system of numbering should be adopted. And since 1934 to now, alhamdulillah, the Islamic world has got a perfect numbering system, so we don't have to dwell too much about that. So let's see further what he's saying. In translating the text, I have aired no views of my own, but followed the received commentators. Where they differ amongst themselves, I had to choose what appeared to me to be the most reasonable opinion from all points of view. Where it is a question merely of words, I have not considered the question important enough to discuss the notes, but where it is a question of substance, I hope that adequate explanations will be found in the notes. Where I have departed from the literal translation in order to express the spirit of the original better in English, I have explained the literal meaning in the notes. So it's important to read the notes as much as you can, right? But initially you can just go through a simple reading of the Quran. Let me explain the scope of the notes. I have made the notes as short as possible, consistently with the object I have in view, namely to give the English reader, scholar, as well as the general reader a fairly complete but concise view of what I understand to be the meaning of the text. To discuss theological controversies or enter into polemical arguments, I have considered outside my scope, and I appreciate, because I don't like to go into debates and arguments. Such discussions and arguments may be necessary and valuable, but they should find a place which is separate treatise, if only out of respect to the Holy Book, and I agree with that 100%. Besides, such discussions leave no room for more important matters, right? So we finished that. On questions of law, the Quran lays down general principles, and these I have explained. I have avoided technical details, and I appreciate that also, because this is in the field of jurisprudence, and there are various fiqh and various schools of thought, so there we leave that also out as well. It will be found that every verse revealed for a particular occasion also has a general meaning. The particular occasion and the particular people concerned have passed away, but the general meaning and its application remain true for all time to come. What we are concerned about now, in the 14th century of the Hijrah, what guidance can we draw for ourselves from the message of the Quran? So that brings us to end of episode number 3. Join me in the next episode, which is episode number 4, as we're taking this further. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.